Hi, this is Marc Childs from Childs Davidson. Welcome to our video series on FMCG issues. Today I want to talk to you about the rapid rise of discounters around the world. They are clearly showing themselves to be effective competitors and a major concern for branded manufacturers. In this video, I'm not necessarily going to offer you solutions. I do have some suggestions to make at the end. But my aim is to get some clarity in this subject. My reason for doing that is twofold. One is that it seems that manufacturers aren't taking this issue quite seriously enough, in my view. Certainly the salespeople are, but whether other parts of their organisation recognise the size of this challenge or its danger to their future, I'm not so sure. The other is that it seems pretty clear that the mainstream retailers don't really know what to do in response to the discounters. Let me cover a couple of facts first of all. I've done a bit of a back of envelope analysis using the Deloitte's Power of Retailing report. It's a great report, by the way. If you haven't seen it, they issue it every year and it's worth getting. They evaluate some basic data on the top 250 retailers in the world, and those retailers include a number of cash and carry retailers as well. So I'm pretty sure they reach a long way into the FMCG market. As of 2015, the discounters represent roughly 15% of the total market represented by those retailers. But that's not going to stay there, because when we look at comparative growth rates, we see that supermarkets and hypermarkets combined are growing at only about 3.9% per annum. Drug and pharmacy are growing at about 4.8%. Convenience is growing at only about 2.3%, and cash and carry only 0.2%. Contrast that with discounters that on average are growing at 7.2%, and you realise that by 2025 they're going to reach round about 20% global market share. And that's probably an understatement. When I talk to clients in the UK, for example, they say that the panel data there underestimates discounter market share by perhaps 50%. So I think we can anticipate that the discounters are going to suck a lot of oxygen out of the branded marketplace over the next 10 years or so. Now, I mentioned before, major retailers seem to be completely caught off guard by the discounters. They only seem to have two real responses. One is to invariably compete on price, and the other is to try and challenge with private label. So we've seen several of them, for example, launching lower tier private label products in an attempt to be price competitive. Now, my view is, and I think this is a view of many of the manufacturers I talk to, is that they're never going to win on price against the discounters, certainly not against the big global discounters like Aldi and Lidl, who have very deep pockets and really no share market to answer to. And secondly, the discounters aren't about private label anyway, so trying to compete with them on private label shows pretty much a misunderstanding of what they're about. So let's be clear, the discounters offer much more than just cheap price and private label. They offer convenience, and I don't just mean that they're nearby, although they certainly are, because they're largely neighbourhood stores in very many markets where they can be reached on foot, but also quick service, easy in and out. Secondly, simplicity. You don't have a vast shop to walk through and complex fixtures to choose your products from. Thirdly, cheapness, for sure. But cheapness is not enough. It's good value. Shoppers who go there believe they're buying brands. I'm sure you've experienced this. Particularly I see this in Aldi when I go in there. Walking down their aisle of packaged goods, it's kind of like you're in a surreal parallel universe. It all looks very familiar. And scattered amongst their brands that look a lot like national brands are actual national brands, just to reassure the shopper that all of these brands are okay. For the major retailers, I say, clearly you can't be seen to be expensive. That would never be acceptable in FMCG retailing. But you also can't win by playing the discounter's game. So the options are to better differentiate, and of course most retailers, in trying to compete with discounters, are going in the opposite direction by trying to take out costs to compete on price. They're actually worsening their differentiation. And secondly, they need the support of national brand owners with a strong innovation pipeline. But again, a lot of the behaviours of the major retailers these days are squeezing brand innovation and making it harder for manufacturers to bring new brands and new concepts to market. Now, to the manufacturers, I say, well, you're really just secondary players in this. But I have a few suggestions to make. Now, I should stress, for competition law reasons, each manufacturer should obviously act on their own in their dialogue with their individual trading partners. But I have 5 things that I want to offer. Firstly, tell them as often as possible that their best weapon is to differentiate themselves. Secondly, offer innovative brand activation programs. Now, I know that the retailers these days want to run their own race and they tend to resist that, but I would encourage manufacturers to keep on offering and being creative and innovative on that front. Thirdly, make sure you've got a strong product innovation pipeline on offer. Fourthly, we already know that a lot of the panel data that we get that defines the discounter channel is below par. I mentioned the UK example where there's a belief that it's perhaps 50% understating discounter share. I think every manufacturer needs to be more demanding of your data providers and insist that a better job is done in providing data, mainstream data. And the reason I think that's important is unless the metrics are inclusive and properly reflect total market share in the market, including the discounters, top management and marketing are not going to take this as seriously as they should. And finally, I would say zero tolerance when discounters are guilty of passing off. And we see lots of examples of that happening. And for some reason, manufacturers seem to be a little bit tolerant of that. I don't think they should be. In summary, I want to emphasise that this is a critical threat to branded manufacturers. And I care a lot about the outcome there because obviously the branded manufacturers pay my salary. So I want to emphasise that manufacturers need to engage effectively on this subject, individually of course, to protect their own brand strategies with the major retailers who carry their brands. This is Marc Childs from Charles Davidson. Thanks for watching.